Hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for video game news. It is November 12th, 2020, and these are the top stories of the day. To kick things off, congratulations Sony on what looks like a very successful launch of the PlayStation 5. It's kind of crazy because Sony at one point was the newbie in the video game industry, At that point in time, in the mid 90s, we had a solid Nintendo versus Sega rivalry. It seemed like the other consoles that came out before it, Atari, Intellivision, Magnavox, um, these early video game consoles sort of started to fade away. And it was a Nintendo versus Sega world. And here's Sony come in. 1994 in Japan, 1995 in North America. Of course, at one time, it was going to be Sony and Nintendo combining forces together to either add a unit attached to the Super Nintendo or a brand new Nintendo PlayStation system. Things didn't work out. History is just that in the past, and Sony went on to creating the PlayStation. PlayStation 1 came out, then just called PlayStation, and it went on to becoming quite the success story. The first PlayStation console sold 100 million units worldwide, and the second one went on to selling 155 million. The third one kind of dropped to like the 88 million territory, and then now the fourth one is up to like 110 million, and then we've got the PS5 that launched today. Sony has never had a bad selling console. They haven't always been first place with the consoles, but no console of theirs has sold poorly. Handheld wise, on the other hand, you've got some pretty good success with the PSP, and PS Vita was kind of a failure in terms of sales. But Sony's got a pretty good track record. They're coming strong off of the PlayStation 4 era into the PS5. They've got a big system, a powerful system, competent. It's more powerful for the 2020 market than the PlayStation 4 was equivalent to the 2003 market. So I think the $500 you're spending now will get you more for this generation, respectively, than your $400 did back 7 years ago. And that's before inflation and stuff like that comes into consideration. So I think this is pretty solid. You're getting a 4K Blu-ray player if you're playing on the PlayStation 5 disc-based system. You're getting a nice new controller, which is perhaps the most evolved that Sony has gone in the direction of controls in quite a long time. They didn't really change much up between PS1 to 2 to 3. 4 kind of had a different shift, a little bit different of a look and a feel to it, while still being very PlayStation. But 5, you could definitely see some influence from the Nintendo Switch Pro controller in design, and even going in their own type of HD rumble with the haptic feedback and different types of sensors. Kind of a feeling of an Xbox One controller in a way, but still PlayStation because it's got that, symmetrical analog stick placement and the D-pad, which is Sony's own way of doing it. So I think the system's going to do well. Sony acquired Insomniac Games not too long ago, and obviously that means Ratchet and Clank is secured on the console, and we'll get more games from that series, such as the new Ratchet and Clank, which will come out probably in a few more months. Of course, Spider-Man, fantastic. We're launching with Spider-Man Miles Morales, and we'll eventually get a proper Spider-Man 2 and perhaps more superhero games. And you've got strong IPs. When PlayStation first launched, really for us in America back in 1995, it wasn't a console that had a lot of first-party IP. And for many years, that kind of was the case. It didn't have the powerhouse names like Nintendo did or Sega did. You didn't have Mario, Virtua Fighter, Zelda, Sonic. You didn't have, Metroid, Altered Beast. You didn't have Mario Kart, Daytona USA. You didn't have these big IPs. But what Sony did do was work well with third parties and had a lot of titles come out on their system. It was the early days of PlayStation with Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy VII and Medieval and of course Crash Bandicoot. and Spyro the Dragon. So the list kind of went on. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. There were some existing franchises from the NES, Super NES era that transitioned well onto the PS family, and there were some games that came out that were, brand new entry points, like Battle Arena Toshinden, new franchises, new series like Tekken that started on PlayStation. And here we are, 26 years later, and now the console, on the development side, they've got the hardware down pretty well, they've got the controllers down pretty well, and most importantly, internally within their studios, they branded themselves as PlayStation Studios. So different companies within, Sony Santa Monica, different teams, Naughty Dog. If a game is made under a Sony company, it's got that PlayStation Studios logo. So it's kind of unifying them, giving them that Nintendo feel, giving them that Marvel Studios appeal, so that people know that that game is like a first party. That's like an exclusive title for the PlayStation brand. And here you have, God of War. You've got Spider-Man here on out. You've got Ratchet and Clank. You've got Sly Cooper. If they want, they've got Jak and Daxter. I say if they want because you haven't seen that one in a while. You have Uncharted. You have Ghost of Tsushima. You have The Last of Us. Some of these are fairly new, like Ghost of Tsushima, and some are now kind of well-established franchises that have been around since PS2 era, like God of War. And we've got a God of War sequel coming out to the one from a couple of years ago. So pretty big stuff. And it looks like they're going to do well. I actually have a PlayStation 5 right here, which I will do an unboxing video of later. But yeah, this, I'll scoot back for a bit. You can see how big that is. That's a pretty beefy console, right? Switch it around. Boom. Big chunka. Now, I reported a couple of days ago something interesting. I'm trying to find a right way to hold it. I'll put that back here for now. I reported a couple of days ago that some stores are showing that their PS5s have been overheating, and it could be cause of concern for consumers, but probably not because they're in cases and stuff like that. They probably don't have as much breathing room as they should in your living room. Presumably in your living room, they will have more than in these cases in stores. However, it was something to be cautious about for some people at least. Some folks like to wait and let those early bugs get ironed out. Let the people that are rushing for the holiday scene like me, that want it day one, let us experience the problems and then let Sony take care of it. And then their slightly altered model that come out, a few months from now, be safer to buy a better product. But as we are finding out today, actually, there are several reports already popping up online of people with PlayStation 5 errors on day one. Some systems aren't turning on. Some systems are turning on. People are doing updates, loading their games in, popping in their Spider-Man disc, playing it. Controllers charged up. Cool. They went away for a few hours. They came back and no power. People saying, I unplug it, I plug it back in, I check my circuit breaker, controller works, but no power to the system. And it's not like I've read, hundreds of reports. It's just been, less than a dozen, a handful, probably even 5 if I'm not mistaken. So it's really just a handful of reports, but they're coming from different people and they're all pretty similar, saying this is the issue that I'm having. And that's interesting. Of course, 5 is very small in what's probably a couple of million shipped. But how long before they multiply? You hope, if you're Sony, that this is a very small percentage so that it doesn't cause a lot of panic and that people don't, have this fear of buying it. And it probably is small, but you never know. Sony with the PS3 back in the day, they had a yellow light of death problem, and Microsoft obviously had a very big problem with the original Xbox 360 models, the red ring of death, and they had to do a lot to make it right for people and lost a lot of money in the process. Now, Microsoft in particular has very deep pockets, so it wasn't that bad, but nobody, no matter how rich you are, wants to lose $2 to $3, $4 billion on a system or any product, right? So we'll see, because it's still just out for a day, but we'll see in time if more PlayStation 5s are showing up with this type of error of some sort. And for that matter, some people, fewer than 5, if I'm not mistaken, like I said, 5 accounts that I've heard and or been sent to, read, of cases happening on the PS5 of this issue, and two or three of Xbox Series X's having the same thing. I haven't heard any issues on the S, but actually I have the Series S and X right here too. The Xbox Series X, that's the back of it, I suppose, with Halo Infinite. That's not out yet. A few people have been experiencing and talking about a very similar issue with their Xbox Series X. They turn it on, play it, it's fine. Now the Xbox Series X has been out for a couple of days, as has the Xbox Series S. And this one, no problems yet that I've read personally. Xbox Series X, 3. Now that I think of it, it wasn't 2, but 3 for the Xbox Series X and 5 for the PS5 of issues. System turning on, happening fine. Turning it off, won't turn back on. We'll see, like I said. Nothing to be concerned over, just a total of 8 reports. But if it continues, there's a little bit of caution. But besides that, not to put a blemish on this nice day and this story, recap, rewind, if you will, of PlayStation 5's launch, because I do want to say congratulations to Sony on what looks like a successful launch. I've heard so far that the PS5 shipment is huge, like the most that Sony has ever sent out, perhaps huge, in the launch month of a November period of time for a system. If that really is the case, then we're going to have some giant numbers for November. We'd also just heard from Microsoft that the Xbox Series S and X have made up so far the biggest Xbox launch ever. So it looks like very successful on both sides, and that's pretty exciting overall. I can't wait for sales to come out. I want to see the numbers of Sony, of Microsoft, of Nintendo for the month of November. Moving on for now. Speaking of sales, we have our Famitsu Sales for week 45 in Japan. I'm using, once again, Chris1964's chart as it's nicely laid out on the ResetEra.com forums, so thank you. This makes up the November 2nd to November 8th, 2020 time period. And here are our top 10 games. Pikmin 3 Deluxe with not a bad drop, 60% from its previous opening week with 67,000 units. Ring Fit Adventure, nice restock, up 28% to 37,000. Animal Crossing New Horizons at number 3, also up 32% with 31,000. This right here, this is the Pokemon Sword with expansion packs or Pokemon Shield with expansion packs. So this is the bigger $90 in US currency or 8,689 yen in Japanese currency bundle. That together sold 18,638 copies. At number 5, we've got Shadowverse Champions Battle for Nintendo Switch at 13,000. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe up 29% from the previous week at 12,000. Number 7, we've got Watch Dogs on PS4 at 8,700. Moving along, number 8, we have Super Mario 3D All-Stars with 8,500. Number 9 is Minecraft for Nintendo Switch, a game that's up 27% over its previous week with 8,091. And at number 10, the regular version of Pokemon Sword and Shield combined to sell 7,638. So you see that actually Pokemon is up quite a bit because you add this 18,000 plus this 7,000, and you're looking at 26,000 copies of Pokemon Sword and Shield that week, which with 18,000 of them being this higher bundled price. And once again, we don't know the exact number of eShop sales, but safe to say it's also quite up. The split this week was 9 on Nintendo Switch and 1 on PlayStation 4. Moving into hardware, we're going to see some big numbers coming up, and that's what's really exciting because we're midway in November and it's only going to get crazier from here on out. Nintendo Switch was the leader this week with 139,200 copies sold, up big time from last week's 86,000, up big time from last year's 88,000. We're now at 4.5 million year to date. And last year to date, at this point, was 2.9 million. Now, the really neat thing is, so last year, at this point in the year, Nintendo Switch sold 2.9 million, and it went on to selling 4.5 million total for the year. Well, look at this. Nintendo Switch this year in 2020 is already at 4.5 million, and we've got these last several weeks to go. This number is going to go up big. Now, if you did some basic math and said, well, Nintendo in 10 and a half months last year sold 3 million, and in the last month and a half sold 1.5. If you took that ratio and put it here, you would say, once again, okay, Nintendo Switch, 4.5 million for the first 10 and a half months of this year. For the last month and a half, if you just took 2,570,000 and added it to this, you're looking at 6.8 million possibly for the year. Now, that would be on the high end, but even if that ratio isn't quite all right, it sells half of this in the last several weeks, we're still obviously going to have the best Nintendo Switch year to date in Japan, and for that matter, the rest of the world. So very exciting to see what's going to happen. At number 2, less exciting, but still hanging in there, PlayStation 4 at 3,200. It's better than last week, but a big far drop from last year. To be expected, it's an old system, and the PS5 is literally coming out next week for this chart, which is today. 3DS at 561, also dropping, and Xbox One at 29, which is also dropping. Next time we see some sales, we're going to get some PlayStation 5 stuff, and that's going to be exciting to see. Where does Nintendo stay with the new console on the market, and eventually Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S? How do they all stack up? I'm stoked. Moving along, more sales talk today, but it's all interesting sales talk, at least, so that's a good thing. We've got more sales talk today, and this one is coming to us from Nintendo themselves. They sent a PR out this afternoon, and I'm using businesswire.com to read it off of in this case, and it is stated that Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch Lite sold a combined total of 735,926 units in the month of October in the United States alone. This is Nintendo Switch's best October sales to date, meaning from when that system came out in March of 2017, and it's had its first October in 17 to 18 to 19 to 20. This is the best October yet. It's such a high amount of units sold that it's actually Nintendo's second highest amount of units sold of any console in any October other than Wii back in 2008. So that's a 12-year record that the Wii had, which means that Nintendo Switch beat everything out for the month of October since then in the last 12 years. Very impressive. Nintendo's Wii was a beast of a sales machine, but after the first few years, it kind of hit its peak and began to decline. Nintendo Switch is in like Wii peak performance mode right now, but I don't think it's going to taper off anytime soon. I think that 2021 is going to have a better software year than 2020. It could be the year that we see a Plus or Pro revision. It could be the year that we see a sales drop in either the Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch Lite. Who knows for sure? The pandemic definitely probably helped boost up console sales from what they would have been otherwise, but you gotta say, Animal Crossing was going to do well regardless, and certain games like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Paper Mario the Origami King, Pikmin 3 Deluxe, Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity, Super Mario 3D All-Stars were all going to come out this year, regardless of the pandemic. So Nintendo was still going to have its lineup of titles, and they would have still done well. We'll never know exactly what those games would have sold individually and what the console would have sold individually without the pandemic. We would have had to have two different lifelines throughout 2020. But at the end of the day, this system's selling very well. It's continuing to peak, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. Console hardware sales, could they go up one more year in 2021? Maybe, but we have yet to finish off 2020, and things are just going to get that much crazier. If I scroll down, there's some more information here, which is pretty cool. Some of it's some basic stats, like this particular month of October, it was a 136% jump over October 2019. That's huge. That's a consistently ever-growing console. Now, if you look at that and apply it to November and December, which far exceed the month of October in typical years, we're going to have our biggest holiday season of Nintendo Switch to date. And if you're curious of just what that 2008 sales for the month of October was for Wii, it was 807,000. So you look at that 807,000 for Wii and look at that 735,000 for Nintendo Switch. This means that Nintendo Switch, to put this in perspective, PS4 and Xbox One, they've had their success, right, in the last 7 years. From when those systems launched in November of 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, in the last 6 Octobers, the Nintendo Switch beat all of them. Now, how will it do in November and December? How will it do next year? Too far to tell, but as I keep repeating, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think the new systems are exciting, and I think they're going to do very well, but I don't think they're going to cannibalize the Nintendo Switch market, really. The last thing was that from this report, this is now the 23rd consecutive month that Nintendo Switch has been the #1 console on the NPD charts, and that's really impressive. Can it pull off 24? With Microsoft announcing huge numbers of release and sales for the Xbox Series platforms and PlayStation 5, rumors reporting that it's Sony's biggest launch release of titles of consoles being put out there to date for the month of November. One of those two could take the top spot, but Nintendo might as well. Nintendo does kingly numbers in these last 7 weeks of the year. And also, Nintendo's president Doug Bowser said that, rather than doing sales drops this holiday season, they've got an attractive bundle. They have the Nintendo Switch packed in, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and a 3-month free membership to Nintendo Switch Online, compelling titles. In some cases, you could get a $20 eShop gift card in addition to that purchase, all for $300. So when you add it up, it really becomes, a pretty good deal if you're a first-time Nintendo Switch buyer. And this bundle with the aforementioned Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and 3-month individual membership to Nintendo Switch Online begins November 22nd, so pretty soon. But that about does it for that. Moving on, got some more Nintendo news to talk about. Nintendo, one more partnership of the year. Like, they just don't stop, you know? We had so many things this year. Levi jeans, Lego, Uniqlo, Black Milk clothing, um, partnerships with Cold Stone Creamery, just everybody. And then here now we have Champion. This is the Champion crossover with Super Mario Brothers. They got sweatshirts. They've got some other gear. In particular, this is an opportunity for you to use those Platinum My Nintendo coins. You could go over to my.nintendo.com and actually enter the sweepstakes. You could enter up to 3 times, and you could, there's my little me. Hi. Looks like me, doesn't it? You could use your coins and enter 3 times in the sweepstakes. You use 10 coins to enter once, and you could do a total of 30 coins, enter 3 times. Pretty cool. So I thought I'd share that with you because a lot of people are Nintendo Switch owners that watch, and a lot of people must have a Nintendo account of some sort, so might as well enter to win a cool sweatshirt, right? And finally today, this was exciting because in addition to new consoles, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, something else came in today, which I'm really happy for. Do you know what this is? This is from one of my favorite companies, F4F Figures. I gotta give them a shout out right now. They make really high-end, high-quality video game statues. They do it from the Metroid line. I have a beautiful Various Suit Samus Aran from them. Super Mario Brothers line. They have an awesome Bowser statue with a flame coming out of his mouth. I have that. They've done Metal Gear Solid with a Solid Snake statue. The R-Wing from Star Fox. Majora's Mask, the mask itself. Link on the King of Red Lions. And lots of figures. I mean, we're talking beyond Nintendo as well. I know the only one I mentioned that was beyond Nintendo was Metal Gear Solid, Solid Snake, but you've got Simon Belmont, you've got Sonic the Hedgehog, you have Luigi's Mansion, you have, oh geez, Okami in there. There's a lot. And now, today, anyways, talking about big boxes, my Mario on Yoshi statue arrived. This is the size of the box. And as you can see, it's a pretty big chunka. It's like 4 PlayStation 5 boxes. So I'm going to do a separate unboxing of this. But every statue is numbered. Mine is number 56. These statues go up. There's normally a normal edition, an exclusive edition. Sometimes they have some other type of collector's edition. I like to go with the exclusive editions because, you know, like with the Samus Aran statue, the exclusive one has lights. I thought that was cool. The Bowser one came with the flame instead of just the tongue, and the flame lights up. With my Solid Snake statue, you have different changing heads with different lights for his night vision or for his thermal vision. You have the little ammo box rotating. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that. And with this one in particular, you could see right here actually on their website, every edition has Mario and Yoshi on this little platform. But then you have some that, the exclusive one in this case, also comes with a side platform and an egg on top. And then you could go even bigger, and you could go multiple platforms around and multiple flag variants and flowers and stuff like that. I ended up going with exclusive on this one because space-wise, I figured that's probably going to be good enough for me. These statues are pretty big. Bowser in particular, like, that's a big boy. I actually made a pretty cool yellow power block for Bowser to sit on so that he looks even more appropriate for my living room and whatnot. Got him by the fireplace, so it's got red brick behind him and sitting on the yellow power block, and it's just awesome to look at. So these statues are expensive. You know, they are a few $100. But if you're interested in some quality statues that aren't made out of polystone, they also have a PVC line, And they've done Crash Bandicoot, Luigi's Mansion. They've done Sonic the Hedgehog, Spyro the Dragon. They did The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild back in 2017. Link shooting the arrow. They have done recently Princess Zelda from Breath of the Wild. And they also have some big head models of characters like Solid Snake as well. Really good company. I had the pleasure of meeting Alex from First Four Figures at E3 back in 2019. This is Alex here. This is Chuckles over here. Really cool people. Had a lot of fun talking to Alex and John. So shout out, hey guys. And yeah, those PVC statues, by the way, they're smaller and they're a lot more affordable. They're like $100. Still super cool quality, and still have, you know, all of the fun and beauty of really nice looking statues, but a little bit smaller scale and definitely cheaper, but still very well made. That's gonna do it today for video game news. I feel like I've been talking a while. We kicked off with a PlayStation launch of the PlayStation 5, and I wasn't expecting to do so much backstory, but it was just kind of fun to look back in time. We went over hardware sales and software sales in Japan. Nintendo Switch is tearing it up over there, right? And everywhere in the world. It's amazing. You know, the Nintendo Switch is on its way to being a 110 million plus selling console. No price drop yet. It's going to be 4 years next March. It's closer to 4 years now than 3 by a long shot, and no price drop. So the sky's the limit. Can this be possibly the new best-selling system of all time? It has quite a ways to go, you know, but I think that at the end of this year, it very well could hit 80 million, and once it hits 80 million, it's got an easy 21 million to go before it beats Wii, and then, you know, what's next is the Nintendo DS and PlayStation 2, which are in that like 155, 157 million category. Now, that's still a ways to go, but just imagine Nintendo Switch Lite ends up eventually becoming $100 for a system with that many games. That's going to be quite a deal. A lot of people will just buy a second one for the heck of it. A lot of people will buy their very first console for that price. If the regular Nintendo Switch can get down to $200, that's also a very attractive. Okay, you got a kid, put it in his or her bedroom with their little TV. They got their own console. Take it on the car ride. That's another plus, you know. Extra family room toy. A Pro model comes out, Nintendo Switch Plus. A lot of people are going to be buying a second console. I know I will. You know, I didn't buy the Nintendo Switch with the improved battery. My battery in my original model from day one back in March 2017 is still doing fine, so I didn't need the new one, but I will definitely buy a Plus model if it's got, you know, some better specs and produces some better visuals, higher frame rates and whatnot. Let me know what you thought of today's video. PS5 related talk, sales talk in Japan. What did you think of Nintendo's chart-topping NPD stuff? Are you looking forward to that Champion crossover? Will you go over to their website and throw in some coins to, you know, enter in? Now, what do you think of this statue? I'm going to do an unboxing. Might even do it right now. So this video might be, you know, back and forth with the other one. We'll see. All right. Whew. Thanks for watching. This is Paul Gale Network signing out. I hope you all have a good day. Stay safe. Enjoy your consoles if you got one, and if not, just wait a couple more weeks. You'll be able to buy one. Congratulations, PlayStation, on a successful launch, I think. And take it easy, everyone. Bye.